in a state of evaluating what's going on in their life and in their career, because there's a whole lot of stuff going on right now. I think it's called the Great Resignation and the Great Reshuffle. And our conversation today is going to be geared for you if you're in a couple of different spots. So the first area that we're looking to serve folks is if you're thinking about if there's something different out there, perhaps in a fractional service role. All of you are probably very familiar with fractional services. CFO and the fractional financial executives have had this figured out. It's been going on for quite some time. And I think the rest of the world is now starting to catch up with you all in terms of offering fractional services. Now, we're also here to serve you if you are thinking about evaluating what else is out there in terms of you want to stay with a role within an organization, a traditional W-2 role or an employment engagement. And we're also going to hopefully give you some ideas about how you can secure the right opportunity that's just the right size and in the right area of expertise for you. So now we find that in a lot of cases, people are not attracting. So if you think about, there's like this law out there in the universe that talks about the law of attraction. And if you find that you are not attracting the right kind of opportunity, so for instance, maybe you end up in a job that you're just not loving, or you're working with clients that you're really not thriving in the role, you're not enjoying the work, it's not something you look forward to, or maybe the people aren't something that you really enjoy. We want to give you some insight today on how you can improve. All right, Mark, you got another one for us? All right. So we find that if you don't have those right opportunities coming to you, and if you're not attracting those, or you're not running into these people throughout your network, we find that there are some things that you may be missing in your approach. So when Jeff invited us to come and visit with you all today, we thought it might be kind of fun to share a little bit of insight that might be helpful for you wherever you're at in your career or in your life. And we also, when we're wrapped up, we'd like to share a little bit about what we're doing and what Mark and I have put together as far as a collaboration and a solution if you're wanting to pursue fractional work in your own career. Mark?
I'm working on it. I'm clicking. What we have found over the years is that people have to build for stability. And when we talk about building for stability, we're talking about understanding the service of you and understanding what you really love to do. So we want you to really think about what you love to do, and you're going to put a lot of time into building your business or your career, and you might as well discover what you putting together an offering that you love, or find a job that you love and enjoy doing every day.
And that's not always easy. Sometimes it's easier said than done. So if you think about attracting these opportunities, what I find is that we make a pretty big mistake with how we do this. And we start talking about all of the things that we can do instead of what we really want to do. And Mark has got actually some great stories about his own personal experience. Mark, do you want to share a little bit about what your direction was?
You guys, I agree. I have the credentials and the ability to do the traditional CFO services. And, I did that for a little bit, just getting started. But what I realized is that I love helping people understand the value of their business and transitioning it. So instead of being all over the board, I concentrate specifically on working with business transition planning. And that's what I love to do when I get out, when I read in the evenings, and it makes work a pleasure.
Fantastic. So in order to attract those areas of opportunity, we find that if you specialize and you focus on identifying a niche or a particular entry point. Mark's entry point and his best opportunities are when a business leader is thinking about what their succession plan will be and what the right strategy is in order to make that succession plan or exit plan really work. And when he specialized, it moved him from trying to chase this great big world out there to being able to attract the right people, focus on the right relationships, and really fine tune his messaging. If you think about it, it's kind of like I'm an expert at helping people find opportunities. And if you Google sales training, you are going to get tens of millions of hits. And that's a really big world to try to be good at. And I want to be the best in the world at what I do. So you can either attempt to be the best in the world and a generalist, which means you are going to be really busy and in a very crowded space, or you specialize and you identify the area that you can be best in class solution within that niche or that area of expertise, that small slice. So I consider myself to be one of the best in the world at teaching people how to prospect and how to find their perfect opportunity via their network or via relationships, which is how Mark and I actually ended up working together. And when you do this, you find that you are going to have not only the work that you love, but you're going to have the ability to just really pick and choose.
Yeah, we find that people with our kind of experience, their biggest problem is that they can do anything, right? I mean, I've been working for forever, and we've done so much. And going back to building that foundation again, if you build your foundation on what you love to do, you're going to have a lot more fun. You're going to do the type of work you love, and you're going to add more value to your clients. So this is truly our belief that this is the foundation of your fractional services business, or even your job if you work really hard at figuring this out. And this takes a lot of contemplation and time.
Absolutely. So what we thought we would help you with today is identifying what would be your area of specialization. And when we talk about this, Mark has often talked about the service of you. You know, he's mentioned that several times. And the service of you exists whether or not you're offering fractional services to a business or whether or not you are trying to stand out from other candidates that are pursuing that same opportunity. And when you start to hone in and identify this, it's really important that you step back and think about what truly is that one thing that you are amazingly gifted at. And that one thing, what you have to think about it from, it's a number of different sides. You're going to be looking at it from the perspective of not only what that job function is or what that would be in terms of a skill or expertise that you'd put on a resume, but you almost want to think about it more as where do you empower that business to accomplish something? Where do you help them achieve something truly extraordinary? And that's what you want to think about. And the challenge I think that a lot of us run up against is we try to be generalists within this. And you know, my thought is why not find something that you're not only talented at and gifted at, but you also absolutely love it. And it's one of those things that you would do it even if you didn't get paid for it. So that's one of our biggest things that we want to talk to you about today and give you some advice on how to figure that out.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You know, we spend some time, we understand what we love to do, and then we have to figure out if invalidated in the market, right? So you have to learn to communicate your superpower and understand what you bring to the role. And during, we actually haven't specifically talked about this, but we have a class that we teach, and we talk about understanding what you like and what you love, and then the process of validating it in the marketplace.
So when you think about it, what you want to do is you want to identify what is truly going to differentiate you or make you stand out. And we talk about it like it's your superpower, and we laugh because we think, well, what is a superpower that you would have in your career? And in a lot of cases, the superpower is that thing that you are recognized for, and your boss or the business leader that has engaged you is often sharing, this is what you do that makes you extraordinary, or this is how you've saved them money, or this is how you have improved their culture or made an impact on the team. And in a lot of cases, we get told that stuff and we're not necessarily comfortable in that acknowledgement. It's one of those things of, oh, well, shucks, everybody does that. Well, everybody doesn't do that. And what I'd like for you to do is think back throughout your career at when have you received that acknowledgement? When has someone spoken out and said, oh, mercy, this was an absolutely phenomenal experience? And there's a lot of things that I think that we take for granted. For instance, we've got a really great comment that just got shared about someone that's fantastic at seeing processes and seeing the systems to put in place. And that is truly a superpower. That's something that it's not typical. It's not normal. And to be able to identify what those patterns are and how to make this happen in an organization and duplicate an outcome through systems that can be implemented and scaled, that's pretty amazing and extraordinary. And it's not something that you want to just sit back and say, oh, well, I thought everybody could do that. Well, no, not everybody can't. So we want to make sure that you really think about this from the perspective of not only that thing that you do, but the impact. And there's an exercise, and we don't have time to dive into it today, but it's something that is important to go through in your evaluation of what you do. And we call it the 5 why exercise. And you think about it like you're going to peel the onion, and you just keep asking the question about why was this important, and why did the employer find benefit from this, and why did the team receive some benefits, and what were the measures of success around this. And you just keep peeling until you get down to the real opportunity that you bring through your gifts or through your superpower. Mark, what would you add to that?
Well, I would add just a question to everyone. Did you really plan to become what you are, a CFO or whatever, or did just circumstances take you there? And then did those circumstances put you in a box that you really, you're good at, you've learned to do it, you have huge experience, and it led to your superpower. But I would really like everyone to think about that, because so many of us, studied for one thing or thought we were going to do something else, and then our careers just evolved. And I think oftentimes we get stuck in this box. Well, I'm a CFO, or I'm a CEO, or I'm this, or I'm that. And we really, really want to encourage you to get very specific and find those things. Like we said, we call it the superpower, or the service of you that differentiates you from the market.
Now, does anybody have any questions about this while we're here, as far as how would you go about finding out what your superpower is? Because this is often a really good spot for people to say, that's easier said than done. And yes, we recognize that. I love hearing from our audience and from comments and conversations.
Does any of this make any sense? Are we
resonating with y'all? Give me a thumbs up or comment and say, I'm here and I'm listening, or okay, that doesn't apply to me. We like hearing that too. If you think it doesn't, we'd like to have a conversation about why not, or why it will.
Resonates perfectly.
Yeah, I'm listening. I think it's interesting. It resonates with me. My career, it's a pretty long one, and I have I think it's the law of attraction. I just end up in 2 redirections, a turnaround, and a startup. And I think the common denominator is new things that need to be, if not mastered, at least appropriately learned. And, in the startup, in the turnaround, figured out, the root causes for this company's need for a turnaround and what we were going to do about it using financial modeling that I learned elsewhere, working with a gentleman hosting this program, Jeff.
Mhm.
And, but, knew how to use that, knew how to learn from, apply that, and how to bring that learning to the organization. One more example, in a startup, I built a new finance team from scratch because it's a startup. Never done that before. And also had to manage a major Department of Energy grant. Never done that before. So, that's kind of where I've ended up significantly in my career, in those kind of situations where, it must just be law of attraction, because that's where I find myself at least a number of times. So,
And do you
I
love
can't
it?
say I intended it, but yeah, those were the things I were exciting and very, very satisfying. Yes.
Fantastic. And that is so important for you to really think about not only what can you do, but what do you absolutely love doing? Because that's where you will find your enthusiasm and excitement and passion pulling you towards. And you're also going to create those opportunities. They're going to be communicated. And you did a wonderful job of communicating what you do and what your capabilities are through sharing a story. And that's one of the key skills to think about with whatever it is that you're doing with your networking or your search, no matter what it is creating those examples. And it's going to be a lot easier for you to stand out from others when you are able to explain what it is that makes you the blue umbrella in the sea of gray. Because that's something that definitely not everyone is going to have the ability to do.
Yeah.
So Mark, you got another one for us too.
And Jeff, you were going to say something?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I was just reading what.
We're enjoying the comments too.
Yeah, we
It's
really
like
are.
Mark, you talk for a while because I want to hear what everybody has to say.
I'll take care of this, but I want to hear what Jeff has to say.
Yeah. So Jim Lawrence wrote, for how he said it, but it echoes very much what mine is and has been. I can quickly gain people's confidence and trust in financial business partnering. And somehow, not intentionally, but somehow I figured that out many, many years ago. And I have exploited that and used that from that day forward to the point where, I've been able to have 100 clients, over 100 clients in my career. And so I could easily, quickly gain their confidence and trust. And that's why they brought me on. I was reflecting on this, I think with Matt or somebody the other day, and, of all those clients I've ever had, nobody has ever checked my references. And I kept thinking, why is that? What's going on? But it's really because of the superpower, like Jim says.
It's competence.
Yeah.
And that air about you related to competence.
Yeah.
This is Jim, a quick background to my comment. I was at a company who'd gone through bankruptcy, and so we had significantly fewer people when we were restructuring. And I worked for a gentleman named Andy, VP of Finance, and he assigned me to a group. I went to meet the VP of that group, and he said, "Oh, so you're one of Andy's weasels." And at the end of the day, I had become, really a good partner and a good friend to this guy, and he called me his trusted financial business partner. And later on in my career, his wife actually worked for me in another role, and unfortunately he got cancer and died. But at his funeral, she pulled me aside and said, Don was right about you.
You a weasel? I'm just teasing.
Well, that too.
I love that.
Those are pretty crafty little creatures.
Yeah,
I think they're pretty amazing.
Mark,
I can't help myself.
I have to refine that story, I think, Mark.
I loved it.
Yeah. But hey, I don't know if you guys have been reading all these, but
yeah, they're fantastic.
We here on this meeting, we have some of the top people with the top skills in the world. These are such valuable skills that everybody's throwing up here.
And do you notice how everybody is just a little bit different?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what I'm noticing from it, is even though if you all sent me your resumes right now, if you sent me an email, it would be really difficult, I would imagine, to pick out one person just based on what is in a traditional resume.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why these conversations are so critical, to have okay, this is what I do now. Why is that important? And if you go back to the gentleman that talked about navigating through the bankruptcy and the turnaround from that, I know people that are very good at doing that. And I know a lot of other people that have recognized that they are not good at righting the ship. And to just hear the differences between, and I work with one of my clients as an attorney that works with he gets appointed by the court to go in whenever there's that restructuring that happens. And he has shared a lot about what people think they can do versus what they actually can do. And that difference is often the difference between the turnaround being a success or an abysmal failure.
Yeah.
And
I think that brings up a really good point. It's not just what you want to do, it's getting very clear on what you don't want to do. And to be quite specific on that, you couldn't pay me enough to do a turnaround. It's just, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of conflict. It's a lot of bad news. It's just not something that I'd be excited to do in the morning. There's nothing wrong with it. I know people that do it fantastically, just not my personality, right? So if you keep getting thrown into the alligators, it's probably because you're not specific about what you don't want to do sometimes.
So Adam, I see you've got your video on now. Can you tell us a quick story about, I love systems and processes too. Could you tell us a quick story about how you discovered this and what you see yourself doing, kind of things?
So I've really discovered this working with my family in their construction industry, as well as it really kind of stuck to me when I got into investment banking and was working as a financial controller. I could just see how the data was flowing, and it was flowing poorly. And so I would just be able to, I would just start to go in my mind, okay, where's it coming from? And some people need to see flow charts, but I would just start seeing it, and then and I just start making adjustments to get the data in good quality, so that by the time I got to the general ledger, it worked. So that's really how I figured it out. But working with my family in the construction company really helped me see it from the large side of the entire business, understanding how a job is sold all the way to the net income and how it's installed and everything. So
nice.
Fantastic.
And that's a huge skill. And
that's the service of you right there. It's good.
So Adam,
you've done a fantastic job.
What do you do now?
I'm a controller.
Okay. For what kind of company?
For a staffing organization.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm a traditional accounting role. Don't get to do a whole lot of system analysis.
Yeah, I got to tell you, you're underutilized.
That's right.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So, sounds like another, what are the great resignations in your future?
Well, or perhaps a reshuffle within your current role to expand so that you are able to capture more opportunities. That's the other thing is, I think when you get super clear about what it is that you really truly do want to do, and you make that opportunity. For instance, and I'll share a really quick story. And Mark, sorry, I'm going to chase a rabbit here. One of my very dear friends. Yeah, what's new about that, right? So one of my very dear friends is a director of marketing within a really large organization, and she had hit the spot in her career that was as far up within a particular division as she could get. And her only other opportunities to advance within this Fortune 100 would be to move to a lesser performing division or department. And she didn't want to do that. She was already within kind of the most elite group that was in this organization. So what she did is she basically went to her boss and said, you know, I see an opportunity. I see something that's missing here in this role. And she basically pitched a consulting gig. That's what it looks like on paper, down to the full scope of work, doing an analysis. She said, here's where we're lacking. Here's what we don't have. Here are all of the gaps that are a part of our current processes and systems. And here's where our industry is going. And she basically even laid it out. It was a 9-page plan. And she said, here's where we're going. And if we don't have these things in place, this is what I foresee are the consequences of that. And it was funny because within 2 days, she was in front of the CEO of this Fortune 100. And they basically created an entirely new position for her with a different comp plan that, by the way, their corporate guidelines only allowed an increase of like 5% or 10% unless certain criteria were met. But based on what she presented, she was able to get almost a 30% pay increase, as well as stock options and performance bonuses that made up to a pretty substantial payday for her. So it's one of those things that just because you are in a role, if there is an opportunity for you to advance, you can basically approach it as pitching a fractional service even within your current role. So don't think about it as in, well, this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm doing, because I will tell you that businesses that are aggressively growing and trying to figure out the new normal right now are very open to saying, okay, we're going to rethink how this is done. We're going to do things a little bit differently. And it opens up a door for you. So that's just a little bit of a, sorry, I chased the rabbit. I thought that
I
would
don't
be
know,
a fun
because I
story.
like this transition story, because what we're finding, Brendan, is as we've been teaching people in our class, right, we're teaching them to identify this, and then not overnight, but slowly they're developing their clients from what they're sort of in their firms or within their fractional business or within their jobs. They're slowly moving from what they're forced to do, because that's what they've got pigeonholed into, and slowly developing those opportunities or changing out their clients to find people that will let them do what they love to do. This isn't an overnight thing, but it does work over time.
Well, and the other thing is, if you don't ask, you're not going to get, for sure. And what Mark and I are finding through a lot of these folks that we're talking with is they have actually been able to position their former client as being one of their first fractional clients that they secure. And in a lot of cases, the role is improved, as well as there's a lot to it that shift to make it their dream job. So what may have been a nightmare or something that they didn't enjoy at all can become something that you love, but you really have to be clear about what that something is before you can make any progress at creating what your ideal opportunity would be, whether it's within your existing role, one that you're interviewing for, or something that you are going to find and secure on a fractional basis. Anything else you'd add to that, Mark?
I think it's great. And I do believe that, you know, there's a difference between consulting and fractional services. And I'm going to touch on that just a little bit. My goal is to have 5 clients at 2 to 3 hours a week at $250 an hour, not 70 hours a week fixing somebody's books. Now, sometimes I have to start there to build a relationship so that I become part of that C-suite, that higher level team member for that organization. But once you get to that level, they never fire you, and you never have to get off of a business, right? It's just amazing how the relationships, I'm sorry about that, how the relationships with the business leaders or the C-suite work if you can build those relationships and become that trusted advisor.
And we'd like to share another example, and this one actually is on track with our slide deck. Here we come. We're going to get back on track, everybody. Just wait. It's Friday afternoon. It's almost 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Definitely.
So what we do want to help you with is I want to leave you with something concrete that you can think about as it relates to wherever you are in your business or your career. And one of the gentlemen that I had the privilege of working with, I guess it's been about 4 years ago now, he had started his career as an accountant and went to work within the finance division of one of our larger hospital groups here in Kansas City. And the thing that he found is that he really was good at creating the dashboards and going in and identifying the key drivers and the KPIs that were part of measuring what it was within one of their clinics that was causing them to excel, or identifying when there were constraints or problems with systems, and then implementing changes, and then creating that ongoing scorecard. Again, the KPIs, key performance indicators, to know what it is that was truly helping the top performers achieve that, and then duplicating it across the organization. So fast forward, I guess it was 6 or 7 years into his role, he just kept getting promoted until he was the director of finance for this hospital group at the young age, I think he was 32 or 33. And he and his wife wanted to have kids, and he wanted to actually have time with his family. And it's really hard to do that when you're working 70 and 80 hours a week. And so he decided he was going to kind of step back and rethink what his career looked like. So part of that reshuffle, before reshuffling was a thing. And what he did is he looked at what he brought to his employer, and they actually implemented his approach across 21 clinics. Well, at that point, he got to thinking, there's something here. I've got a process, and I've got an approach. I've got a methodology. So what he then did is he then turned around and just started networking and saying, I want to do this with very small medical clinics because I understand the model. I get the language. I understand all of the little ins and outs of dealing with the insurance companies and the cash flow challenges and billing and all that other stuff that's a part of this. So that's going to be my area of expertise. And he hung up a shingle with that area of specialization of working specifically with medical practices that were established, that were thinking of aligning with hospital groups. And hospital groups required things a little bit differently as far as their books, and that's what he was specifically looking for. So when we talk niche, he was getting niche, and he honed that down. And fast forward, gosh, I think it was at 12 months, he posted something on his LinkedIn profile, and I had the opportunity to work with him early on before he had ever even landed his first client. So we got very specific right out of the gate with what he was looking for and how he was going to go about making that happen. And within 1 year, he had replaced his entire salary from that corporate role, as well as decreased his hours to 45 hours a week. And he was only working with 5 clinics instead of trying to ride herd over 21, as well as an entire accounting staff. So when we talk to you about specialization and about identifying and getting super clear, that's what it looks like in your world. And it's pretty cool when you can make that happen and that becomes your reality.
This is one of our favorite slides. This is this reflects our lives, Brendan and I, and we all know that we can all succeed over a period of time, but it's not going to be a straight, flat path, right? So
Without its roadblocks and obstacles and speed bumps and, oh my goodness.
we often talked about this in our course as the College of Hard Knocks. And we share a lot of our experiences throughout the class. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to transition into a little bit of a quick commercial now, I think.
If that's okay. Is anybody interested in hearing a little bit about what we're doing? I know Jeff gave us the opportunity, but he did also say that he might come after us with the hook.
Yeah,
So
we got to
I
get
wanna-
moving.
The hook is a little bit, it's a little bit hard to reach us from Denver. So I want to give him the opportunity.
There you go.
Oh, you're good. Keep going.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I think a lot of when we talk about the School of Hard Knocks, I have a master's, actually I got a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks, and it's through the mistakes that I made in starting my own business. And the fractional service thing is something that I've been doing way before there was a term for it. I started doing consulting and training in the early 2000s and then launched my own business in 2000 and, oh gosh, I think it was 2006 was when I went out completely on my own. And I have been working with everything from great big Fortune 100s to little bitty startups to people that think they have a business idea and they're not quite sure how to make it happen. I think one of the most interesting ones I had during the pandemic last year was an artist that wanted to create paint by number kits and figure out, she wanted to, instead of just mass producing them, she wanted to do fundraisers for pet rescues because that was her area of expertise. So talk about diversity. That's my middle name. So Mark, you want to share a little bit about your background?
See if I can click here. Well, basically, my background is that I did everything wrong until I met Brendan.
Oh,
And I've
that's what he
slowly,
says.
I've slowly achieved some level of success. And what I have done is implement the things we teach in Freeway to Fractional to the point where I'm comfortable, and I'm currently in the process of developing 5 streams of income, and I'm not overworking myself. So that is something that we would love you all to understand how to do.
And that, I think, is one of the keys to whatever it is that you do. I think the Great Resignation and the Great Reshuffle and everything else that this is called right now has made it abundantly clear to all of us that we really don't have any stability in terms of, even if you've got a W-2 job, there's still a lot of uncertainty. I mean, you can have the best job in the world for the best organization, and you can get hit with a pandemic and your doors could be closed for 6 months or 7 months. And then you could be hit with supply chain challenges and unable to get parts, even though you've got people lining up to give you money in order. So bottom line, we all need to be thinking about what our career is and view our capabilities as a business asset. And through what Mark and I have created with the Freeway to Fractional program, we want to help you look at all aspects of your career and what is that asset of you and your career and what your capabilities are. So Mark, do you want to advance just a little bit? Because this may help you, even if you think through what that service of you is. I don't care if you are in a job that you absolutely adore and you're thinking about how can you get a promotion, or how do you get recognized for what it is that you do? Or how do you be a little bit more intentional with creating that work that is important to you? And if you're thinking about networking for a new role or a promotion, or if you're in between jobs and you're trying to think about what that next thing is, the more you get clear about this, the more you will find yourself attracting the absolute perfect opportunity to you. Because trust me, if you just put your resume out there and you don't give that thought, you are going to get lost in the sea of sameness that is this automated process that HR departments are forced into using because they just don't have the bandwidth to filter through the hundreds of resumes out there or the thousands of potential candidates for a given role to get just the one they're looking for. So in a lot of cases, they abandon that and start networking and saying, who do you know who can help with this? Or who's someone who specializes in that? And that's what's really important that you think about, is that that it's not only just your bio or your credentials or your resume or your profiles, it's clarity. And what is it telling as far as the story of you and what it is that does make you different? So that value proposition.
We talked a lot about today about module 1, which is the service of you. And that's our program is 4 modules with 19 classes or lessons in it. So the first one is the module 1, and it's discovering and really getting into depth in a lot of the things we talked about today.
And then module 2, this is the how do you win the opportunity? So you think about it as your value proposition and what does it really mean? And I don't know that anybody really, especially, I don't know, maybe some of you on this call love selling. Show of hands, anybody here want to raise your hand and say, I absolutely adore selling?
Of course, Jeff does.
There's Tom. Tom, you like selling? You and me, Tom. We're buddies.
I do. I'm not the best at it, but I really get a thrill out of closing someone, and you feel just great. You feel like you can conquer the world.
It's a win. It's crossing the finish line and having that win. You know, you got a check mark in the column that says I got it done. And you know, I think that there's a lot of people though that struggle with thinking about anything that they do as pushing or coercive or manipulative or disingenuous, or, you know, sales get such a bad rap. And the approach that Mark and I have developed here is we've recognized that relationships create the opportunity for people to buy because they love to buy, but they hate being sold. They hate feeling as if they have been manipulated or pushed or coerced.
Okay. The thing I love about module 2 is you do all this dreaming in module 1. Now you have to validate it before you really have a business. You don't have anything, as Brendan says, until one or two people have written you a check for it. And this organic process that Brendan taught us or teaches us how to do in module 2 is an amazing, easy way to build friends and validate your service of you.
And it's great to get to revenue. That's the thing, is once you get to revenue and you do have, to Tom's point, you have that first win that says that there is a service here that people are happy to pay for, then that allows you to scale. And then that's where we start talking about module 3. And we dive into Mark's area of expertise.
Well, the best part about this module, if you're thinking about going to into a fractional service business, we have about a 30 question interview that we've put together to help you figure out if you want to be on your own or if you want to go and work with a fractional group. And it allows you to know the questions that you should ask before you dive in, and make sure you understand the rules that you're going to have to live under and how you could actually make money before you sign up and say, oh, I didn't know I couldn't sell other people's work, or whatever it is, right? So it's a really good. And then we go through the whole back office and we make recommendations as to software and things that'll make your life substantially easier in managing your own fractional business.
And the key is actually having systems some of you are talking about how you're gifted at creating systems for organizations. The challenge when you're doing it for yourself is it has a tendency to be a different equation on a lot of different sides. And having somebody that is that sounding board to help you with understanding your business the same way that you have helped others understand theirs can sometimes be, well, it can be very helpful. So, and then of course, we have module 4, which is where we talk all about scaling. So that additional incomes, those additional income streams that Mark was talking about, how he has 5 right now. And this is something that's very important for you to get to, because we really advocate that you move beyond selling your time for money. When you think about your fractional service as being, you want to work X number of hours and make X number of income, then at that point, you're going to have to, then you start thinking about things. Oh, where'd we go, Mark? There we go.
I'm back. I needed to get a link here. I'm trying to be ahead of us. Just to keep going.
Okay. So he went shopping and the wrong screen was following along with where he was heading. So within module 4, what we talk about are all the different ways that you can create revenue. And we talk about it through creating strategic alliances, independent contractors or subcontractors, and how to structure that. We talk about affiliates. We talk about reseller agreements, channel partnerships. We dive into a lot, and we talk to you about how you can scale. And even more importantly, it's all about adding value to your client relationship. So we are truly wanting to give you all of those things that, to Jeff's point, and Jeff's one of our valued partners as well, all the things that allow you to create a scorecard and measure your ongoing performance within that client so that you solidify that relationship. That is crucial. So Mark, you want to keep us moving? We've got the hook coming our way.
Here comes the invitation.
Yeah.
And it's a friendly invitation. We are offering a free master class called Secrets to Fractional Services. Secrets to Fractional Services.
Insider
Yes.
secrets to fractional
insider
services.
secrets. There you go.
Yeah.
Insider
Come on, Mark.
Okay. It's good to have Brendan keeping me straight here. But this class will be, it's an hour and a half. It is a free class, and it explains a lot of the details, nuances that we go through in our Freeway to Fractional class. But it is going to be on February 9th, a morning time of 10:30 to noon. And on the February 10th, a Thursday, an afternoon, 3:30 to 5. These are central times. And we love for you to register for that. I'm going to share this link. Please.
I just did, Mark. I just did.
We both did. So I had it all set up. And we'd love for you to consider joining us on that and learning more about what we have to offer. And the class itself is pretty valuable.
Well, we hope it is. And
we know it is.
We will tell you that most of the folks that have attended have walked away with insight either about enhancing their current role, identifying and securing their next, understanding how to interview in order to differentiate themselves from others, figuring out where to get started with launching a fractional business, and also recognizing some of the traps or big mistakes that you may potentially fall into. And that's what we're looking to accomplish within this masterclass, because we want to get you off on the right foot. And whether or not you join us for the Freeway to Fractional class, whatever it is, at the end of the 90 minutes, you're going to have a lot more clarity around what fractional services might look like, or some of the things that you can do to enhance what you're doing with your own fractional business. So Mark, is there anything else that you would care to add before we turn it back over to Jeff?
I would just like to add that we know that all of you can build your own fractional service business. We believe that by getting some coaching and by associating with others that are taking this class, we can cut significant time off of you finally getting to that perfect blend of hours and clients. So we'd love to have you come and learn this with us. And that's all I have to say.
And thank you so much for the opportunity, Jeff. And thank you everyone for staying awake on a Friday afternoon.
All right, so Mark, if you want to undo the sharing.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay,
Yes.
so the first thing I want to tell everybody is, and you know, they're great. I've been paying attention to what they've been doing for a while here. And the one thing they didn't tell you was the cost of the service. It's like, say you wanted to sign up for the full blown thing. And it is so reasonable. They offer so much value and the pricing is so reasonable. So why don't you guys just give them a quick overview of the pricing?
Brenda, you want to do that?
I am happy to. So the way that we have structured this, that whole scaling question, we want to be accessible to as many people as possible and not have a burden of cost, because we understand that sometimes people, may not just be sitting on a huge bankroll right now where they're at in their career, or they might be, but whatever it is, our price point is $1,500, and that is for lifetime access to the program. And now the lifetime is not our lifetime or your lifetime. Our programs have a tendency to have a life of anywhere from 10 to 15 years is what we're anticipating. So through that, you will have access to the community as long as we have that program. And I will tell you that as programs evolve, my first one I wrote in 2003, and I'm on my third version of that program. And the people that joined me originally, back when my class was $750, they got to buy the upgraded program and the new program for like 90% off. So I think the most anyone has spent to buy the new program was $100. So we have a tendency to do our best to be as affordable as possible.
Yeah, so, I know a lot of you guys, have been doing this for a little while. And, there have been many, the life journey, the pitfalls, all that kind of stuff that they were showing. We've all lived through those. This gives you an opportunity to maybe shortcut some of those life lessons and learn from them. So the next thing I'm going to do, hang on a minute, is I'm going to paste my LinkedIn address. If you're not connected with me, please do, because what'll happen is I'll put you on the mailing list and you'll get the opportunity to either decide if you want to come to this or not come to this. It's a lot easier. And before on the mailing list, when I send it around, I'll tell you what we're going to do that month. And so, you just become part of the community. I'm not going to sell you anything. I just want you to know what's happening. The other thing is, I'm going to put out there, it's a work in process. And so this is a link to my website, and I'm going to show you the website. So this is our website. It's forecasterlab.com. And, I have a software, so it's really for the software, but I'm also tagging on different things. And so I tagged onto it a fractional CFO section. So, we're recording this event. And so, I'll take it, I'll edit it down, make it smooth, and then we'll post it. And what we've done, we're going to have, we're going to have 3 sections in here. They're not done yet. My son does the website, and he just had a baby, so not too long ago. So a little slow right now. But so we're going to have alliance partners, business development, and marketing partners. And so you'll be able to, come here and find all the recordings from all these events, all these meetings, and they'll be on here. And so you can listen to this again if you want to listen to this again, or if you have a friend that didn't see this and you say, hey, you would really benefit from checking this out. There's a link here. Let me give you a link to Jeff's website, and you could watch it, and then you could decide what you want to do. So that's another tool that we are putting together. So before I go any further, are there any other questions that anybody has that they want to ask Mark or Brendan? I can't see everybody, so just speak up if you have a question. Okay, so we covered that. So one of the things I'd like to do is to take you through a story. It's not 100% related to what we just talked about today, but it's something that I think will resonate with everybody here. I've been a fractional CFO for 21 years now. And, I'm not, just like they were pointing out, and Mark said this really well, I'm not a consultant. I'm not a contract finance person. I'm a CFO. And so when I go to do work for people, I take the CFO role. I sit there next to the CEO and I take that role. Now, these are small companies that I work with, 2 to 3 million on the low end, 35 to 50 on the high end. So they're small, and they're usually, owners that got to a certain point. And so they need somebody like me, but they can't afford somebody like me. So they only pay a fraction of what I do. So, when I started doing this, it's like Brendan said, there was no such word as fractional CFO. I had to make one up myself. I called it a surrogate CFO, but obviously that didn't catch on. So the fractional CFO is what I am now. But anyway, I want to tell you the story because, every once in a while you do something a little different, and the consequences are sometimes can be super great. And that's what happened here. By the way, that's from Fargo, in case you guys are wondering. All right, so anyway, this is what I call the you never know presentation. So you can see what I said. I had some additional time, so I took a consulting role with Robert Half. Literally, I was a consultant. It made me, a little bit sick to my stomach to call myself a consultant, but okay, I needed some money. I had some time. I wasn't going to earn any money. I had 2 months, and I was going to start up another engagement. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to see what they got, and I don't care how much they pay. It's more than I would get paying sitting at home. And so the role was in a solar company, residential solar. And, the company was in early stages, and, they designed and installed residential solar. So, okay, I didn't know anything about solar. I didn't really care about solar at the time. But I took the job. They wanted me to fix their QuickBooks. Okay, I'll fix your QuickBooks for you. I'll take care of that. So the next thing is, they became a client and ultimately required most of my time. We grew that thing so big, they almost went out of business. I showed them what their problem was. Adam, you'll appreciate this. I helped them with all their systems and processes, hooked them up through Salesforce, made the whole thing work. They went from struggling to do 30 to 40, houses a month to doing over 200. And so the thing just took off. And so, I went there and started working with them, took up most of my time, but I still did my escape respirator company. And, I'll talk to you about that some other time. That was fun. I have a patent now. But anyway, so you never know. So I learned a lot about the solar business there. And then I was recruited to be the CFO for a solar company in New York City. They provided rooftop solar on commercial and residential buildings. And it came with some equity, and my escape respirator venture fizzled, so it didn't matter. Then that solar company struggled in the city. They continued to struggle. They didn't really listen to me, and I could tell my equity wasn't going to go anywhere. So I said, all right. And so I was contacted by a fund. So now, believe it or not, after 5 years, because the solar industry was so new to the world, I suddenly was a solar expert. I didn't intend to be a solar expert, but because they couldn't find good CFOs that knew the solar world, I was contacted by a fund that had a portfolio company that was in solar, and that thing was taking off, but it was falling apart. Systems and processes were terrible. It was all a bunch of young people. There were like 30 people in the company. They were just gotten up to 40 people, and the thing was growing. So they wanted somebody like me. They really wanted, they wanted an older person. They wanted an adult in the company. So, okay, I came out here to Denver to do that. And the pay was good, and I had a slice of equity. There was no competition for the job, because when I talked to the people from the equity team, or the owners, they said, "You're our guy. You're exactly what we want." And so I was brought in to get it under control and sell it. So we sold it in June of this year, or last year now. And I did have an equity position in there, and it really paid off big time. But now everything I'm doing right now trails back to that decision. So I have 4 clients that I'm doing fractional CFO work for. They all trace all the way back to that decision I made to be a consultant for 2 months. And so this is, like I said, it's just one of those, you never know what's going to happen. So now I'm in this wonderful place. I've got, I did the sale. Financially, I did really well. I can now sit back and work on, I developed the software because of it. I'm doing this because I can. I'm working from home. It's all just really, really good stuff. So, typically as a financial person, I have pretty much tunnel vision in the world. And so when I get on a path, I stay on that path. I don't really deviate. And this is one of those times where I just decided to do something different, which is very unusual for me. And it paid really big dividends. So, you never know what's going to happen. So that was it. I just wanted to share.
Fantastic story.
Yeah. Yeah. And so those things are out there in front of you guys. You just got to find them sometimes.
And be open to them finding you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to stop recording.